everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and we're going to be using a number of different materials today to do a drop necklace. The drop necklace is going to be a zigzag drop necklace, and it's going to have a number of different drops that's associated with it. You can use these same things, you can use different things, that's kind of up to you. I'm going to be using some galvanized silver drops. These are Miyuki drops, 3.4 millimeter. The next drop that I'm going to use is a Rizo drop, which is a Czech product, and this is in Crystal Aztec Gold. I'm also going to be using a silver Dagger bead, also Czech glass. These are 7 by 17 millimeter that I'm going to be using. In addition to that, I have some SuperDuos, and I'm using a jet color. I have some 8.0 matte patina iris beads, and I have some 11.0 galvanized silver beads. In addition to my collection of beads here, I have my clasp, which is going to be a cup button in the Crystal Labrador. I have a size 10 English beading needle, and then I have some thread here. And the thread that I'm using is .006 Wildfire beading thread. In addition to the thread, the needles, the beads, and everything, I'm working on a bead mat. It's a great, inexpensive surface to work on that you're able to kind of keep your beads from sliding and your needle doesn't poke in too easily. And then the other thing that I use a lot is SuperDuo glue. That's going to be used to tie our knots. So again, other than your beads, your English beading needle, and your thread, all you need is your imagination and some different beads that you can use. So you don't need to keep it to this beads. As you do the video, you'll see kind of the different variety of beads that you can use when you're making this necklace. So to start my design here, I'm going to be working with my 8s, my drops, my SuperDuos, which are my 2-hole Czech glass beads, and my 11.0 seed beads. Before I get started, I want to put on a seed bead that does not match my project. This is a matte purple bead here. And I've put on to 5 feet of beading thread my size 10 English beading needle. I'm going to put on this purple 8.0 seed bead here, just drop it down to the bottom of my thread. And I want to leave myself, because I'm going to add that cup button at the very end, I want to leave myself about 6 to 10 inches of thread, depending on how much you like to reinforce. And I'm going to take my needle away from that 6 to 8 inches of tail, and I'm going to bring it towards the needle. What that's going to do is expose my thread on the side, and this bead eventually will come off my project. I'm going to do that 2 times, and it's going to hold my end in place right there. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a pattern that's going to continue throughout the whole necklace to some degree. My necklace is going to start with a SuperDuo bead, and I'm going to put that on and let that drop down to my stop bead. Next, I'm going to put on 3 of my 11.0 silver beads, and I'm going to go down the same hole, or the same SuperDuo, through the top hole of that SuperDuo towards the stop bead. What that's going to do is create a little picot trim right on the end of my SuperDuo. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an 8.0, I'm going to add another SuperDuo, I'm going to add my 11, drop 11, and I'm going to let that drop down next to the last bead. Once that is on, my needle is going to go through that same SuperDuo, again going the opposite direction, and now a picot trim that has a drop in the center is going to get created. I'm going to continue this pattern for about 5 inches, so an 8.0, and then this SuperDuo. After the SuperDuo at the top gets put on 3 of my 11.0s, and I'm going to go down that same SuperDuo through the other hole. Give a nice tight pull, and I'm going to continue the pattern. 8 SuperDuo, and then because I'm on the bottom, so the drops are always going to go towards the bottom, and going to create that little picot trim at the base. So again, I have my drops and my 11s back through that same SuperDuo bead. Give a nice tight pull, and that's going to go right in its place. Again, we're going to continue this for a little bit. At the top is always going to be the 8.0, the SuperDuo, 3 11.0s, and back down that same SuperDuo. And once I have this pattern established, it's going to move really, really quickly because it does have a nice flow to it. And the only thing to keep track of and to make sure as you're working with it is that your picot trim on the top is always your 11/0s. On the bottom is always going to be with your drops. And I love using the galvanized silvers. I love the way that the silver looks in it. I'm a metal person, so I like to use the metals all the time. And I'm going to push that in place and continue on. So again, we're going to continue this pattern. When you're at the top, you're just going to do the 11/0 seed beads. When you're at the bottom, you're going to add the drops with the 11/0 on either side. And we're going to just continue that for about 5 inches or so. Because it is a necklace, you have to decide, oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. Because it is a necklace, you're going to have to decide how long you want the necklace to be. Because we're going to be adding drops of different sizes, you do want to think about how long you want to have each section. Usually the front section, when you're working on it, when we get to it, you can think about, you don't want to have the bigger daggers that we're going to be adding any longer than about 5 inches in the front. That's usually about the max that you want to have. That is going to be those 5 inches in the front. So you want to kind of subtract that from the sides to figure out how long you want your necklace to be. If I want my necklace to be about 16 inches, which would be a short necklace, then I'm probably going to do about 4 inches of my drops here, which is going to be 8 total on each side. And then I'll do a total of 8 of the daggers and the Rizos. So we're going to do maybe 3 of those and then a couple of the daggers. So I'm just playing with this design right now, doing the same thing. I'm at the top, so on goes my 3 seed beads. Back does my little picot trim, and then down the SuperDuo. So again, I'm going to continue this same design, and I'm going to do this design for about 4 inches, and then I'm going to switch to a little bit different design. So now that I have my 4 inches or so, I'm going to switch up my pattern a little bit, and this time instead of doing a drop in the middle, I'm going to drop down a Rizo in the middle. If you don't want as much of a grade as you're looking at your necklace here, you can continue on with teardrops, and you can do more of a stark grade as you go into your dagger beads. But if you want it to have a little bit more of a gradual, you can use some of the Rizo drops. And all it is the exact same pattern where I have my 8/0, my SuperDuo, and then when I get to the top, my 3 11/0s. Let that drop down to your project. And I'm sewing down through my project, down through the SuperDuo. So I have that little 11/0 trim at the top. When I get to the bottom now here, on goes my pattern of my 8, my SuperDuo, my 11/0, my Rizo, my 11/0, and then same deal, sewing through the other hole of the SuperDuo. If you want to, you can also change up this pattern that you can have every other, so you could do a drop and a Rizo drop, Rizo drop, so it would get a kind of nice every other pattern as you're looking at it. But I'm going to continue going on with my Rizos and adding just my 11s here at the top. You can, if you want to, do the fringe the same on the top and bottom. You could put drops on the top, but I'm liking to keep my little picot trim at the top very simple, so that way all the jazz and all the concentration really sticks to the bottom of the necklace, where my grade is getting bigger and bigger as I go from the drop to the Rizo to the dagger. So now that I've done another 4 sections, so I have about 4 inches of my drops and then about 3.5 inches of my Rizo beads. I'm now going to go on to my daggers, and I don't want a large section of my daggers because I don't want it to be an overwhelming thing. So again, an 8/0 goes on, a SuperDuo, 11, dagger, and then another 11. And what you can do, if you want to, you can also use any sort of bead and just drop it down like fringe and add a little bead at the end and go back up through it. So if you have a bead that you want to use that's not a dagger, you're more than welcome to do that. And I'm going to add my little daggers on there and hang those down. There's also 2 different sizes of daggers that we carry if you do want to do, again, a little bit less of a jump from the Rizo to the dagger. You can do that. On the top, I'm still going to do my 11 O's. As I get right to the middle of my necklace, I am going to switch and I'm going to drop some of my drops and my daggers at the top too, just to show you a little variety. And that's going to bring the focus even more towards the center. Because as we're doing these drops here, or as we're doing the daggers here, it's going to get a little bit more of a statement going on. So my 8-0 goes on, the SuperDuo goes on, and then my 11-0, and another one of my daggers, and an 11-0. And I'm only going to do about 8 of the daggers or so. I'll do an odd number. So I'm going to do 2 daggers here, where afterwards, after the daggers, are just 11 O's on the top. And then after that, I'm going to use the drops on the top, and then the daggers, and then the Rizos as well. And that's just going to make it a little bit more of a visual statement piece. So again, I'm going into my 3rd dagger here. That's going to be on the bottom. And for my 3rd dagger, that's going to be the same thing. It's going to be when I come off of this dagger that I'm going to get a little bit of a different design going on. And once I have these daggers in place, you can also hold it up till you see how long it is. Another good idea, always with necklaces, especially seed bead necklaces, you want to be able to wear them because generally the seed bead necklaces are going to take a little bit longer to make. So what I like to do for that is to take the opportunity to use an extender chain on your necklace. You can always do that. So here at the top, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to kind of go my grade that I was doing at the bottom, and I'm going to do that same thing at the top. So I have my 11-0, my drop, and my 11-0, and again this is going to be at the top above the dagger. And this is just a design element, so you can choose to do this if you want. And that's going to pop a drop to the top. So again, what we're doing is we're bringing more of that focus right down to the center of your necklace. On the bottom here, same deal, another dagger goes on with the 11 O's on the side. I'm going to let that drop down. Then when I get to the top, I'm going to do another section here of my drop. After that, I'll do 3 sections of my Rizo above. And that'll just kind of pull the piece together and again bring most of the focus in towards the bottom of the necklace. Because seed bead necklaces, a lot of them tend to be very, very busy, that you kind of are overwhelmed with them. You're not sure exactly when you're going to wear them. This is going to be a nice simple one that you can wear, and it has a nice functionality to it. So still at the bottom, I'm maintaining that drop section. I'll jump some more off here. So I'm still having these drops going on. And now above this drop, after I come out of my SuperDuo here, I'm going to add, for the design element, one of my Rizos at the top. And you can see it kind of taking shape here, the different sizes and the different grade that's going on. So here at the top, I'm going to add my 11-0. I'm going to add my SuperDuo 11-0, or sorry, 8-0 SuperDuo 11-0, and then my Rizo and my 11-0. Back down my SuperDuo, and again I'm going to do 3 sections of this, and then go back to 2 of my teardrops. So whatever I do from the middle, I'm going to basically mimic that. When you're wearing this too, because of the way that it is, that Rizo should still stick up. So it's not going to fall down and look kind of awkward on you. It should stick up for you. If you're not happy with it and it's not sticking up, chances are you need a little bit more tension on your thread. Whenever you go back into the SuperDuo is when you really want to kind of grab tension on that thread. Again, I'm going to do 3 where I have the Rizo sticking out on the top, and then I'm going to go back to my drops. So after you've completed your pattern of however long you want the middle to be and how many daggers you want, that sort of thing, you want them to be similar and to match. So the best thing to do is kind of start in the middle and work your way out, counting to make sure that you have on the same amount. Then what you can do is count the Rizos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I know that I need to do 9 drops of Rizos. I'm back to my pattern of just my 11 O's on the top. So I just need to continue my pattern, this time switching from my daggers to my Rizos, and just continue on with my 11 O's on the top of my necklace. I'm going to continue this pattern again for my 9 Rizos, and then I'll go back into doing my teardrop beads. So once you get halfway done the necklace, it's really easy because you just have to count. If you want to, you can also measure and get a measurement of how long of each you want to do. However, this necklace is somewhat of an accordion style because it does have a stretch to it with this zigzag pattern. So when you're doing it, you can measure, but it is going to have a little bit of a pull out. When you are measuring, you do want to pull it out a little bit tight and a little bit taut, and that's going to give you a better idea as far as the measurement. Once you have your Rizos on, then we're going to switch to our drops. Now that my necklace is building length, I'm done doing my 9 Rizos here on this side as well, and so I'm going to go back to my teardrops like we started on the other side. So the same pattern again, very, very simple, the zigzag pattern, going off then with the 11O, the drop, the 11O, just like we did at the start. And I'm going to do that the whole way. If you are doing a necklace like mine, by the time that, with the same counts, by the time that it gets pulled out, you are going to be left here with about a 20-inch necklace for those of you that like a little bit longer necklaces. So we're going to end up with 20 inches of our beads. If you do want shorter, you can do less. As I said at the beginning, it kind of depends on how long you want it, how many beads in each section that you're going to be doing. So I am going to make mine more about the 20-inch length to hang a little bit longer. I could even wear another necklace inside of it. But I'm going to keep going now with my 11 O's to the center and then my drops to the outside. Once you're to the end of your project, you're going to get ready to put your clasp on. I'm going to put my cup button on one side and just make a loop on the other side. You can use any sort of toggle, lobster. Again, like I said, it's a nice idea to put an extender chain if you're not sure exactly how long you want to wear the necklace. You can also do the extender chain. So I'm liking it a little bit. I was thinking shorter to begin with, but as I look at it, I do like it a little bit better as a long necklace. So I think it's going to be nicer to keep it long as I'm looking at it. So when I get ready here to do the end of my necklace, I'm going to put my cup button on. To do that, I'm coming out of one of my drops, and I'm going to add on 3 of my 11O seed beads. I'm going to go up through the back of my cup button. And when I come out the cup button, a lot of times I'll either use the SuperDuo to add some color to it, or I can use some of my 8O beads. So I'll use 3 of my 8Os, which will kind of go right across the top of that cup button. I'm going to go down the cup button on the other side. When I come out the base of the cup button, I'm going to add 2 more of my 11O seed beads on, or I'm sorry, 3 more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it by going through that second hole of my SuperDuo. So I started out the first hole closest to the end, and I'm going to go through the second hole towards the middle of my necklace. I'm going through the 11, through the drop, through the 11, and then I'm going to reinforce by going back up through everything. So I'm going back through. If you can, it's a better idea to catch that 8O. I'm actually going to go back down through my cup button. It's a better idea if you can, to, when you're coming through, to catch on to those 8Os. Makes it easier. If you want to, again, a SuperDuo fits really nicely. I come down the other side then through my 8 and through all my seed beads again. And that's going to reinforce that clasp so that way I have at least 2 threads going through there. You can do 3 if you want. Anything more than that, it'll start to get a little bit tight on your thread and your needle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sewer's knot to close this off. So I'm just going to make a loop in between one of my bridge threads, which would be a thread that you would see in between there. And I'm going to make that loop, and then I'm going to run my needle back through that loop. And what that's going to do as I pull my thread through is create a little bit of a knot. I pull nice and tight. I'm going to sew through to another section and do a same sewer's knot again. The last thing I do is always just a dab of that super new glue like I showed you at the beginning. And that super new glue is going to hold that thread in place in those half hitch little sewer's knots. So again, I make my loop, I take my thread and my needle through it, and I have my knot there on the side. Give a nice tight pull. I'm going to dab some of my super glue on it, let it dry, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back to my starting end and get ready to make the loop to attach here to my cup button. So on this start end here, I've taken off my stop bead. I'm going to add one of my 8/0 beads, and then I'm going to add approximately 25 or 26 of my 11/0 seed beads. What this is going to do is make my loop in order to close off my button clasp on the other side. And this is going to fit right around my cup button, and it's going to be how I close off the necklace. Once I have my beads on, and I have enough that are going to make that loop, what I'm going to do is reinforce that loop. Just like we did on the other side, I'm going to sew down that first side, or that first hole of the SuperDuo, and I'm going to sew around the whole thing. Because I'm starting on opposite sides, the necklace is going to lay nice, because the loop and the cup button actually lay off to the side a little bit of that zigzag pattern, but because I did the one after a drop and this one after the seed beads, it's going to lay nicely. I'm going to do this down the whole entire row here, reinforcing, and then we're just going to do those sewer's knots as well on the ends. Once you have the sewer's knots finished, then your necklace is completed and you can wear it. The difficult thing with the videos is you can't really see the whole, because I do it nice and close, you can't really see the whole frame when you are looking at your necklace, but I'll hold it up on my hand, you'll be able to see a little bit of what it'll look like. And I'm doing those sewer's knots here on the edges as I'm working with them. And again, after I have these sewer's knots, these half hitch, I just do a little dab of glue to catch on to those knots as well. If you want to, and you're somebody that sews back through your project, you can also do that. But once you have it done, you'll have that nice drop look to it, that when you hold it up, the weight of the drops will keep these towards the bottom, and you'll have this here right at the bottom. And then, oops, again, it's a little bit hard to show on my hand here. So let me push these beads out of the way. You can see on the bead mat. So there you'll have your daggers right at the front, going from the daggers to the Rizos. And then it'll finish up right with the drops there at the top. Again, this is about a 20-inch necklace from end to end. And it's going to just look really nice with, you know, a nice simple shirt, nice crew neck shirt. It's going to have a great look to it. Gives a little bit of bling of a seed beaded necklace, but keeps the pattern rather simple, quick, and easy. So hopefully you enjoyed watching some of these Czech products with the drops, with the daggers and the Rizos and the SuperDuos. Then we threw some Miyuki products in there, some Japanese with the drops and the 8/0s and the 11/0s as well. The Czech Republic also is where we get our cup buttons manufactured. You can get those from us. Hopefully you get a chance to watch our other videos as well and take a look at those through the YouTube channel. You can also visit us in stores in person. Go to PotomacBeads.com, check out our locations page, and we'd love to see you at one of our physical locations. If you can't get to one of our locations to buy materials and to take a class, you can always shop online at thebeadco.com. You'll also find a list of materials for this project in the comments below if you're wondering where you can get stuff and the different links for those as well. So thanks a lot for watching this fun little dagger and drop necklace, and enjoy wearing this kind of unique seed bead beauty as you're making it. And happy beading to all of you out there that are going to attempt the different projects. Thanks a lot for watching.